CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. All right, folks, it's been a long-ass time since this guy has been on CMMS Radio. That is Josh Zolin, and I've been thinking about this today. We finally made this time to hook up together, and I kind of think of this as going in blind. A lot of people know that I don't do much with scripts. I don't do a lot of questions in advance. I want to hit people up and get in these conversations as if, you know, what if I was out in Arizona, went to get coffee, and Josh walked through the door, and I'd be like, damn, what a small world. Or what if I didn't know him and I heard him talking about Windy City equipment, and I was like, did you say equipment? Why is it Windy City? Are you from Chicago? You'd be like, no, well, a lot of HVAC and this and this and this. And we just go on this journey. So Josh Zolin, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Greg, man, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me back. Like we were talking about before the show, I love our conversations because they're so fucking real. And I crave real in the world that we're living in today. If I'm being honest, man.
So I've got a buddy. So I've got kind of this core group, this network, and some people know who they are. Some people don't. I want them to know who they are. But these are like my people that are, I call them real deal pros, bona fide experts. And one of those close friends and industry experts, his name is Brian Bieschke. And we were talking the other day. This might have made it into one of the podcast episodes, I think, that's going to come out. Should be tomorrow, although this won't be out for a little while. And he was talking about the real versus the unreal, and where we see a lot of that unreal and we start to potentially think it's real. And you got to, in this day and age, 2026, you kind of have to have your radar up constantly about what is this guy saying? What is that guy saying? Because there's people in industry, even in what you do, that are straight up full of shit or something like it, and they don't know it. Like they think they know their stuff. And that's the thing that we really want to prevent out here in this world. We want real conversations with real people. And we're not trying to tear anybody down. We're saying, stop being afraid to just say what you know and what you don't know. What do you think of that concept when it comes to, you're in a conversation, maybe you're on a podcast, maybe you're on a stage, maybe you're at a big event. You've done a lot of those events where you do a keynote and something comes up that you don't know about. And when someone says, let me take a shot at that, but I don't really know, versus someone spews out some crap.
Yeah.
Do you take that approach where it's like, man, I'm going to own that I don't know this shit right here in front of all you?
That's my definition of confidence, Greg, is going into anything with intent, even not knowing something, right? Because, and I want to mention this because I think that I know that most people do the opposite of that because they want other people to think they're confident. Right. And so they have this skewed idea of what confidence means. It means they don't have any weakness. They don't have any fear. They know everything about their craft. They're a subject matter expert. And if they say they don't know, then it's going to hurt their confidence and it's going to hurt their reputation. Right. But true confidence is being able to approach those situations and say, you know what, I confidently don't know that, you know, but here's how I think we can find out, or here's what I do know, or here's somebody that you can talk to, or, you know, something, I mean, whatever it is that you do know, right? That's how you bridge it. But what that does is it gains trust, it gains respect, you know, because at the end of the day, people connect with people, right? People don't connect with figureheads. It's just how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the figurehead concept, where they really are just that, and they have their purpose, but they're a figurehead, and they're not meant to go into the minutia. They're not meant to get jammed up. They're meant to keep up appearances, and so on. We're not talking about anybody in particular, by the way, folks.
Oh, I got a few people in mind.
Sure, but
just kidding.
Well, that's another thing. This idea about like what you do, whether it's Windy City, Blue is the New White, the new thing you've been doing now for, God, it's got to be a year, pretty close to it. The the idea behind influencers. And I tell people, no. I mean, yeah, that's a thing. Cool if people are doing that. But I'm more interested in, and it's not even thought leadership. I'm more interested in just getting to the nuts and bolts of something.
Yeah.
The real stuff. And so many people feel like with the limited time we have on attention span, we got to hit a sound bite or sound like we know something that we don't. It's like, who the fuck cares if I don't know something? They would be far better served if I say, I'm not sure, man. But I think I can help.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that's used as the basis, right? Of like, how can I help? Right? How can I serve? Listen, I'm not gonna sit here like I'm some kind of fucking guru. Like I've done a lot of work on myself over the past 5 or 6 years, Greg, and I won't pretend that I didn't used to be one of these people. Right. And for one reason or another, I mean, whether it was protecting my ego or not wanting to burn my reputation or not understanding the difference, like, I mean, there's reasons, right? They say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. All these people have great intentions, right? So they have no idea that that they're doing things that are maybe not serving in the way that they even want to serve. And as far as this influencer thing, I just want to put this out there right now. Like, I understand the influencer movement. I do. But at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. Like, if that is your profession, you're a freelancer to an algorithm. That's it. Now, listen, if you're a subject matter expert and that's like something you do on the side because you want to be able to teach other people, you want to be able to, inspire and coach and train and, maybe even drive sales. If the intent is something other than being Instagram famous, then fine. But if your intent is to be an influencer, you are a freelancer to an algorithm.
Yeah. And I think even when you say that, we're not trying to tear anybody down. We're just trying to call balls and strikes. I mean, go out there and do what you do. It's awesome. I got a buddy. We've all got buddies, right? It's a good buddy of mine, and he lives abroad. He lives over in Bangkok, and he likes to go spearfishing and all this stuff. And he will talk about some of these, influencers and people that are just huge on social media. We may or may not know their names, so I'm going to leave those out. Just whoever you want to think of. And he's like, this person just posts this and they get like 1 million likes and all this kind of stuff. And then we find out they made X number of dollars in this short period of time. And he said, that's a bunch of bullshit. And I said, why? I said, because it's surface level stuff and that's what people want now. And this person is in a position to capitalize. And I'm sure they got a team behind them because it's not just one person that's keeping up with 1 million engagements. You got to have a team for that. And that's not even close to inaccurate. It's just not possible. I know from what I try to keep up with and I can't handle it. And I've never had any near that level. I'm not looking for that with what I do, but I said, quit being such a hater, man. You either get in on it or you go do what you think is right. But we're not trying to tear anybody down. We're just trying to say there's a lot of noise out there. Yeah. And to some people that noise is music to their ears. And then there's what we think is super real. And we're not necessarily trying to rattle cages as much as rattle thought and inspire digging in. Because with you in particular, in the conversations we've had and things we've traded on, like Messenger and all that crap, and I don't mean that it's crap. We're talking about what it's like to be on this journey and how do you get ahead and how do you dig deep and challenge your vulnerabilities and do that kind of stuff. I mean, I think whether it's Windy City Equipment or any of the other things you've done, that's kind of at the heart of what you're trying to do is how can people be better? How can they learn more? And how can they find the way that's going to work for them to get them moving forward and preferably putting out a bunch of good stuff in the world instead of just fleecing people? Is that is that okay to kind of assess your generalized position on these things, whether you're on a podcast or in office having a meeting with somebody that nobody will ever hear?
Absolutely, man. I feel like I should be on a couch somewhere. But no, you know what? Honestly, you're right. And I do not, just for all the listeners out there, like I mean no disrespect, right? By saying that if you're an influencer, you're a freelancer for an algorithm. There's freelancers all over the place in all different professions that do very, very well. My point in saying that is the risk, right? The risk involved in it. And this isn't a conversation about influencers, obviously, but I think it's important to call out, kind of just going down the journey that we're going down in this conversation, that this is the day and age that we live in. And I'm a capitalist, dude. So like, to each their own. If you can capitalize on this kind of stuff, let's do it. Let's do it as long as it's actually helping people, and it does, right? There are a lot of things that actually do, but as long as you're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, or being unkind, or trying to get ahead at other people's expense. I mean, all of this stuff, it's fair fucking game, man. This is the world.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to be cognizant of. I mean, a good example is like short form video, and I'm doing short form video now on some of my social media, knowing damn well that the shorter the video, the more I'm hurting people's attention span. But that's the only way that I can captivate attention from the audience today, and expel the things that I want to expel to help other people learn. That's the platform, man. That's what it's become. That's where we live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so I I give in sometimes, and I want to do some of those things that are going to maybe get a little bit more attention, and then I have to have strategies and intention behind, hey, let's reel that back. Let's just say what you're actually trying to say, so that somebody could do something with it. And if they don't, that's okay, because I'm not out here chasing massive audience.
Right.
Like with CMMS radio in particular, it's so niche and it's
Yeah.
so kind of specialized. Uh, it's not about huge following; it's about one person at a time. Now with yours, it's a little bit different. So, first of all, I didn't even ask this at the beginning, and I didn't go look it up. So, just the new the new podcast. What is that called?
Yeah. It's called Everything They Don't Tell You: The Truth About Leadership, Business, and Becoming Who You're Meant to Be.
Ah,
And it has been wildly rewarding. So it's the same podcast as Blue is the New White that we've been doing for 6 years.
right.
We realigned the show back in June to expand our audience. We saw that we were having a lot more listeners from other industries, and that blue collar theme, although it's niche and that can be good in a lot of ways, it almost created this exclusivity around the podcast that was limiting our reach to more people that we can help.
Ah,
And
yeah, I
so
get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so we kind of blew it open, right? And we started to bring on more and more people that can just really, the premise is something that's passionate to me. I mentioned I've been working on myself for the last 5 years, and one thing that I've truly noticed is like I've always been a high achiever. I've always been a high performer. I've always chased the next thing, set the next goal, and then had another one the second that I hit that first one. Right. And this was my definition of success for a long time, is just how far can I move the goalpost? Right. And it wasn't until the last 5 years or so that I recognized that there's the success, and then there's becoming the person who can be successful. And this really, like, I've become very, very passionate about this, right? What are the tools that I need as a human being to actually realize the type of success that matters to me, right? And that means I got to strip out the money, right, and the financials, or and whatever shiny object I've been chasing, and truly focus on who I am, what it is that I want, how I can show up in every room for my colleagues, for my employees, for my friends, for my family, because at the end of the day, this is not a zero sum game. And we don't want it to be, right? It's not, hey, I do good at work, so I'm going to take away something from my family. If I spend too much time with my family, I'm not going to do good at work, right? That's not the intent. That's not success, right? That's a choice, but that's not success. And so, because we each define what success means to us, the only commonality we have is, are we fucking happy? And so, so really it's been great, because what we've turned the show into is speaking to these people, these high caliber people who have done it, who have been there, who have fallen on their face, who have failed, who have gotten back up, who have realized this about themselves, about others, who have turned the lens on themselves and really did that work. And to be able to extract from them what the journey looked like while it was happening has been just amazing. And we've had some incredible people on the show. Gay Hendricks with The Big Leap. We've had John Lee Dumas, one of the biggest podcasters in the world. David Meltzer was a couple of weeks ago. He was a CEO of the Lee Steinberg Agency, and most recently chairman of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And who else? We had Todd Henry, the Accidental Creative. We've had some really cool people on the show for the sole purpose of talking to the audience about what it means to become your true self.
Yeah, this is, I mean, look, for what I tend to do on CMMS Radio, there's a lot of things that are really important about this. Number one, we want to reach one person at a time when it comes to their maintenance management journey, the things they're struggling with the technologies or CMMS systems or something similar and all that. But these are all people things. And when we talk about journey stories, what's fascinating about them is every single one of them has something you can learn, something that could potentially resonate, something that could inspire you to think of a different way, even if you don't agree with it. So it all plays. And you said something really important just now. And the most important word you've said today, I think, is failure. And the reason failure is such an important word is without failure, you can't possibly know what success looks like. Now, this is me just kind of spitballing here.
Yeah,
but
love that.
The whole thing about the things that we do, we don't want to fail, but we have to be willing to fail, because through that failure is where the growth and the adversity that we can overcome, you come out that other side. If we're going to agree that the only way out is through, right? Through failure, through adversity, through challenges. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be the worst thing on the planet for you, whatever it is, whatever that means. I mean, you're a human being and there's a certain level of resilience. You can build that resilience. So this all plays with what everybody's doing in all the things I talk about, because it gets to the core of the human element. So hearing these stories from different people, it's not like any of these people you've mentioned and any of the ones you're going to have on in the future are going to come on and say, yeah, I've never failed.
Yeah.
I mean, having a guest that actually never failed, how would that work? It wouldn't be, there would be no substance, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a different kind of I've never failed. There's whenever I've failed, I got up and I kept going. That's another way to not ever fail, but you still fail a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm just excited that you brought that up, because it's one of the most important things about the stuff that I deal with over all these years, whether it's personally or in business or trying to help somebody on their journey. The only way you can be right is to be wrong. I don't know if that even makes sense. What do you think?
I love that, man. Let's talk about failure for a second. And let's start with talking about right and wrong, okay? Because this is something that, again, through my work, people used to ask me all the time, Greg, Josh, you've achieved so much success at such a young age. Like, you must be right a lot. You must get a lot of things right. And the more I thought about it, Greg, I don't. Like, I get more things wrong than I get right. So failure and success, right and wrong. I get more things wrong than I get right. I'm just right bigger than I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'll make 1,000 wrong decisions and I'll make one right one that negates all those 1,000. And I think that, that's an important distinction to make, especially when we talk about failure, because we're taught all our lives to not fail at all. That's what we're taught in school. When we go through the traditional education system, it's, failure is bad. Fail is bad. That's all we learned. That's all I learned. That's all I knew, but really at the end of the day, to your point, failure is good. Getting things wrong is good because that's the only way that you know that you're right.
You learn.
1,000 wrong things means I have 1,000 ways I know not to do it. Right. And then so that paves the way for that one way that's right that negates those 1,000.
Yeah.
And so it's truly amazing. And it's one thing. I just heard this somewhere. Where did I hear it? I don't know. It was somebody was talking about unteachable lessons, right? And I think failure is one of them. Failure is one of those things that it sounds so good when it's written in a book or said on a podcast or you're scrolling across social media and everybody knows it. That Michael Jordan quote, I fail 1,000 times and that's why I succeed. So inherently, intellectually, we understand it as people. In practice, we fucking suck at it.
Yeah.
In practice, we fail and we're like, oh, this is stupid. I quit.
Oh yeah, pick up your ball and go home.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in practice, it's completely different. And I think that is, it's one thing to like sit here and talk about it on a podcast. I think it's super important. But like I want to stress to everybody out there, like even you said we don't aim to fail. Like sometimes I do. Sometimes I go into something without knowing a fucking thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna fail. Actually, I hope when I do fail, it happens quick, so I can get up and course correct, and then know how not to do it next time.
Yeah.
And so I even like a buffalo into the storm, man. Sometimes I'm just like, let's do it, let's fail, go now, so we know as soon as possible how to proceed.
Yeah, little like I'll add a little to that. Like, we're not talking about running headlong into a transformer or and we're not talking about the characters, we're talking about the electrical regulating mechanism that's, gonna kill you. We're not talking about, those kinds of things. But then again, if we talk to enough people, they've been in situations where they had to do something that was higher risk than they're supposed to, but that might have been based on another failure they learned from. What if they're in these situations that are every minute that you're in that exact environment, your life's at risk? There might be. All I'm saying is, when Josh says, he's running in there to fail, and he's going to embrace that, it's probably, he's not necessarily talking about situations like running across a 12-lane highway that's got cars going 100 miles an hour. But
thanks for tempering me on that, Greg.
Yeah,
I feel like you need to nowadays, because I don't want to take credit for somebody trying to play Frogger on the highway.
Yes.
But yeah, don't take your your Gixxer at 150 miles an hour, down the street and whatever.
Well, I think, and what we're talking about is, if you try too hard to get it right, you'll never get it right.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put that. Yeah, that whole get it right thing is definitely, that's some of the work I've done, right? Is like, get it right. So let me tell you a quick story. So somebody told me this is somebody else's story. It's not my story, but it's still a good one. So I know a singer. All right. And I was talking to him about this get it right mentality. And he said, Josh, let me tell you something. He said, I used to go into the studio and I used to practice. I used to get myself in the right mode. I used to, understand pitch and tempo and all of this stuff. And I would go in there and I would hit every chord exactly right. And my producer would stop at the end of the song and he'd hit it and he'd say, man, you did everything right. Now sing the fucking song. You know what I mean?
I think I do. And I'm going to say it when you're done.
Yeah. And I really want people to understand that like there is so much energy output in getting it right that sometimes it strips us of the personality that's the only thing that's right about it.
So what I'm going to say about that, my first thought was, just let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think that's what he meant, was just sing the fucking song, because when you're in that space of pure vulnerability and you let go, that's where the real shit is, and the life happens and the success happens, but it's also where the failure happens. Maybe he's singing and he's just letting go and his voice cracks a little bit. Well, that's what the fucking producer wants.
That's it.
And he
That's
wants him to
right.
keep going. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to
Perfection.
go assemble everything and it's going to be like fucking magic and it's going to be real and it's going to be pure because they're in a synthetic environment.
That's right. It's not real. It's not relatable. It's not human. You
That's
know,
right. But
and
a concert is.
that's right. Exactly. You know, and then you need to, and you can, and I tell this, Greg, because you can put it into any different context, right? This can go into business. This can go into communicating with your family. This can go into speaking on stage. This can go into singing. This can go wherever, right? Because this was my MO. Like I would prepare for anything for months before that thing happened. And I'll tell you this is what I didn't realize because I thought that this was how you were supposed to do it. I thought this was protecting me, right? I thought that it was, and so where is it rooted? Where is this fear rooted? Because that's what it is, right? It's a fear of how you're going to be observed, what people are going to think, was a big one for me, and what that's going to mean for you, right? Because doing something wrong, like stumbling on stage, feels like death if the benchmark, if the measurement is what people think about you, not the message that you're delivering.
That's right. Oh man, if you let that sink in, there's plenty of people that haven't like been on a stage or even in a small room that represents a stage, but scary, but like exciting in a super good way if you can really get it going.
Yeah.
And forget. I think there's a real advantage to whatever level of preparation you do, right? It could be months, it could be weeks, could be hours, but once it's go time, I'm like, just go, go, because that's where the connections are going to happen. And you're not trying to satisfy that whole damn room.
Right.
You can't be everything to everyone, because if you are, then you're nothing at all. What we mean by that, I think what I mean by that is there has to be some direct connection. It's why we also, when we present, when we talk on a podcast, we're talking to one person. The replication and all the people and all the listeners that we appreciate and love and want to help and inspire them and even piss them off so that they can go do something great, right? We're still talking to one person at a time. So when you're on a stage, you're supposed to be nervous and anxious and all that kind of shit, but you're also supposed to be excited because it's such a great opportunity for somebody in that crowd that you're talking to.
Yes.
Yeah. I got some friends that are just, they're fucking pure naturals and they've done it so much. And what they did was they failed along the way, getting back to this failure. And they learned to let go because they finally figured out somehow, maybe even without cognition, that a little more loose, know what you're talking about. That's the other thing. If you know what you're talking about, you're going to be fine, even if you mess something up.
Yeah, man. That's why preparation is it is important, right? To prepare. But once you're on that stage or once you're stepping into that meeting, that's when letting go becomes imperative.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't, you have to ask yourself what game you're playing. Are you playing the game of I want people to like me? I want people to think I'm impressive. I want people to think that, I'm the subject matter expert in my field. I want people to think, or I want to give people X, Y, and Z, and it's so easy. Again, this is one of those things where people are like, they're listening and they're probably like, oh yeah, duh. Like, obviously, Josh, but then they step foot on stage and all of a sudden it's, oh man, that guy's yawning and that lady's looking at her phone and I must suck.
Well, that's our own human fear of vulnerability, and we can fixate on things, and that's all normal and natural. But if you can experience it enough and realize it doesn't matter as much as you think, we have to be mindful, right, that this stuff's not as easy as it might appear to be. I've had people on stage for a panel, and talking to them during preparation saying, hey, don't forget, I'm nervous too. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a human being. And I'm not just saying this to you. So I'll give them a strategy. Hey, if you start feeling the pressure, look at me. Just look at me. I'll be
Yeah.
looking at you while you're talking. I will be looking at you. And it's not supposed to be easy, but man, is it fulfilling when it works. And that one person comes up from the crowd, or someone heard your podcast and reached out and said, Josh, you know what you were talking about with so-and-so the other day? That reminded me of something. I just wanted to thank you. I mean, that's like, you could fall down just like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
why we do what we do.
It is. It
I don't
absolutely
think we
is.
do it for money.
No, money's the happy byproduct of what we do, right?
If it
But
work, yeah. But I mean,
if
if
it
the
works,
intention is behind driving, building, helping, giving, and all that,
yeah.
then that's where I think the good stuff is. I mean, you know, I do I reverse sponsor a couple of like organizations and companies because I can't like donate to them. I'm not in
Mhm.
that position to donate like from my bank account into whatever they're doing, but I can promote them and I can use my time and I can shout them out. And that's reverse sponsorship. I
Oh, that's
learned
good.
that from a gentleman named his name is Doug Winston. I forget the name of his company right now. Look that guy up. He's active on LinkedIn. He's real as it gets too.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
Just this is all good stuff. So what what's like next for the podcast and kind of the direction? And then I think there's also a membership community around it. Is that true too?
So not necessarily around the podcast, but we do have the Blue is the New White Academy, I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last time. And you know, in the spirit of talking about helping people and like why are you doing a thing, right? That's a passion project for me. It's one of those things I don't think that's ever going to be complete. You know, it is available now, but it I put it out there just to help the people in the blue collar industry, right? And it's soft skills, to teaching soft skills to your frontline employees. So it's
Ah.
sold as an employee development tool to blue collar business owners to show their frontline employees the importance of soft skills and what I call practical leadership, and also financial acumen. How does my day to day behavior affect the bottom line of the organization, and in turn, how does that affect me, the
Ooh,
frontline worker?
yeah.
Yeah,
This
so it's been fun, dude, and that's one of those things that's like I would do that for free for the rest of my life because I you know how close I am to the people in the blue collar space, and you know I run a blue collar company, and these are some of the most intelligent, hardworking, respectful people I have ever met, salt of the earth people, and none of them get credit for any of it.
No,
And you
man, they're
know,
our salvation.
yeah, it absolutely they're backbone of society, right?
Everything.
Civilization as we know it today. So I big passion of mine and I'm happy to do it. You know, the podcast is going to continue chugging along. I'm so happy with the direction. Our listenership has just been going up and up, and that's
Sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
I think there might have been a video last week. I was at a conference and I saw something hit like my phone because my YouTube channel follows your YouTube channel,
Oh
and
yeah.
I saw something pop up, and I just saw the initial views, and I was like, man, Josh's killing it, dude. This is unbelievable. How are you getting these views? And it's just nice, and it's not always about like thousands and thousands of views, but sometimes when you see a certain number of views in a short period of time, it gives you some information about the idea that it's resonating.
Right.
So I'm not talking about like chasing likes, but I noticed it and I said, well, this is resonating with people.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
for anybody out there that does this kind of stuff and you're putting something out there in the way of messaging and you're doing something that you're passionate about and you get 3 views, don't worry about it. Those are probably 3 really, really, really interested people. That's
Yeah.
what matters. That's why so many people that are trying to make a difference with their experiences and share them, because that's what it is now.
Yeah.
Like podcasting is not only a thing, it's still like rapidly expanding and growing, and um people have stories. They have,
Yeah.
if you want to help people, you should be out there doing it. But the other thing you should be doing is if you meet the kind of generalized criteria for what Josh is doing, right? How would somebody know if they should be reaching out to you because they want to possibly engage in a conversation with you on the podcast or even separately? What what does that look like?
So we usually reach out to the guests for our
So
podcast.
you source them yourself.
We source. So we've kind of gone down that road. Now we have some PR companies and stuff like that that we work with, But one of the things that we found is, and I'll talk to anybody that has a good story or lessons. What we want to try to avoid is things that can get in the way of the viewer's experience and help and because they absorb this information in a very succinct way.
Yeah.
And the way to increase reach, unfortunately, is to cut out the products that are, for lack of a better term, they're kind of shitty, right? Shitty audio, shitty video. you know Somebody's sitting in their bedroom and it's echoing in the corner. It doesn't matter how smart they are. Sometimes the reality is they lose credibility right out the gate and people just won't listen to the show. And I really hate that, and I don't even want to put anybody in that position
Yeah.
as a guest. So I had a lot of those conversations when it was Blue is the New White, and they were phenomenal conversations. Problem is nobody heard it,
Yeah.
because
And
they would.
that's another one of those, it's kind of an algorithm thing. It's also,
It's the world we live in.
I
you
mean,
know
how do we really know? Like, I'll listen to almost anything
yeah.
if I have the time and
Yep.
it's not perfect quality or anything like that. I can tough my way through it, and I think with what I do, I think I can get away with some. I'm going to say lower quality but higher substance stuff
Yeah.
because I'm tending to have a lot of different types and levels of the maintenance organization or
Yeah.
operations organization following and listening. And they have a bit of a tolerance for that because of the environments they work in are wrought with that kind of shit we don't like that we have to learn to accept and find ways to move forward. But I think with what you're doing, it's a little bit different because you're resonating now, and you said it earlier on in this podcast that you open it up and went a lot wider, which not everybody can do
Yeah.
with their subject matter. With what you're doing, you can, and I think that's really good stuff.
It's tough, man. I appreciate that, and you're right. The smaller the niche, the more acceptable these types of practices are because you have a very small. You have a smaller listener base, right? So what they value isn't as it's not as important, I'll say, in like an algorithmic sense as what the broad audience values. What I will say is when I find somebody who just doesn't have a great audio video setup, but I really want to talk to them, I have an in-person studio now. I'm actually
Ah,
in my in-person studio, and I've got
that's
fancy cameras and fancy lights and all this. And if I can sit their ass in this chair right over here that you can't see, and I can have a conversation with
all
them,
that stuff is resolved.
all that stuff is resolved, and it turns out even better because now that's the realest motherfucker that you will ever meet right there. Maybe they don't have a social media presence. Maybe you've never heard their name before, but none of that matters when they're sitting in front of the camera and I'm asking them questions like you're asking me now,
Yeah.
because it's amazing. And the connection that happens in person makes for incredible episodes.
You're it's interesting when I do the same thing. If I do stuff that's in person, it's different. Having your setup, because I've seen a few of them where the people were right there with you. That's really solid, and that's kind of on one hand, I'm going to call it next level, but I mean that you finally were in a position to set that up and do that and create the regular guests rolling through. I think it makes a big difference. You can hang out before you hit record. You can
Yeah.
guard can be completely let down, let go.
Yeah. And you
It's
can look
really good
somebody in
stuff.
the eye and it's
Yeah.
not a pixel. I mean, it's great. Like, listen, you and I have never met in person, unfortunately, but I imagine if we were to sit down like this and have a conversation in person, that we would blow the fucking monitor off this thing. You know what I mean? And you're an excellent questioner as it is. Like, and so I would imagine, like, if we were in person, that this conversation would just, I mean, you'd be able to feel the frequency in the room.
Well, I've thought about this because I remember when we first connected and started talking. Um, Like I've always wondered, how do you really go long form in some of the stuff that I do?
Yeah.
Like hours as
Yeah.
opposed to, 30 to 40 to 60 minutes. And I think that's where you have an advantage when somebody's there, is you can
Yeah.
go truly long form. And then on the, what I call the edit down process after the fact, you can strip out stuff that maybe didn't make sense. It's not to change the messaging, but you can get really, really good stuff, and you can close out stories with more substance because you're not worried about, oh, I got to wrap this up in 35 minutes.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with those.
No.
But the because you're doing more long form now.
Yeah, we do 2 to 3 hour episodes now.
Yeah. That's a different kind of a podcast. It's a different kind of content to consume. It's different to deliver, and it's a way of going bigger. But I'm not quite sure what I mean by that. I think I mean a lot of things when I say bigger.
Yeah, it could mean a bunch of different things. Can I tell you why I do it?
Yeah.
Because I don't give a shit who's listening. Honestly, man.
In other words, translation is you actually do give a shit who's listening.
Fair enough.
Because the right person's going to be listening, and the person that it doesn't resonate with, you're just like, hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
Someday you might find something I got for you.
What I really mean is that I have a platform here that I can get some of the most intelligent, brightest, charismatic minds in the world. The people that wrote all these books over here that you can't see. Now I have a reason to put them in this chair and learn myself even more than I can from their words on that page.
Well, and that's that's what you're doing.
That's exactly right.
You don't care who's listening because you're listening.
I don't care. I don't care because it's so much, the education that I'm getting from this podcast, just personally, this lights me up. Like if you can't tell, like the podcasting, the conversations, you and I have had enough conversations for you to know now that I hate small talk. I hate small talk. I want to go deep. I want to understand your childhood. I want to know where all your problems came from. You know what I mean? And additionally, I want to know how you took that $2 million organization and turned it into a $200 million organization. And,
or a $200,000 organization into $2 million.
Exactly. I want to know all of it, man. And it's such a great platform. And I just love having real conversations with people. And when you can do that, especially in person, it really resonates. And what I found is people, I say I don't care who's listening, but then people want to listen, right, to your point. And it's and that part of it's fun too, because if it helps me, I know it helps other people.
That's that. I think that's kind of along the lines of this, one person at a time, because there's a lot of people with similar interests, although they're different and unique. They share commonalities that they want to hear about. So if you are helping one person at a time, it's probably 2, 20, and on like that. But I treat that, I try to ignore that metric myself because it'll change what I do. And I want, kind of similar to what I want real conversations that I can learn from or extract something that's going to really help somebody, not just me, but like, oh shit, this guy just said this. Nobody's saying that out loud.
Yeah.
And it was all because we were having this awesome conversation, and the in-person thing. I mean, it's a big deal. I just did a bunch of that at a conference where really there's a company named Reliability X, George Williams, Joe Anderson, Angelica, on and on. They literally brought my recording rig. It's theirs, but they bring it for me. And drove it all the way down, and then I get to knock out like 9 or 10 episodes.
Oh, that's awesome.
On a full rig, right? I got 3 cameras, I got 3 mics, I can do this and that, and very different, like you said, man. Well, I want to make sure people know exactly how to find this podcast so they can consume your stuff and just see for themselves where should they go, and anybody that wants to connect for the learning with Blue is the new white, where do they do that? So drop those 2 things for us.
Yeah, actually, all you got to do is go to joshzolin.com. So my first and last name, Josh Zolin, ZOLIN.com. And everything is there. We've got the Blues in the Wood Academy there. Windy City Equipment is there. That's what started all of this. You can find the podcast there. We're giving away our 90-day ROI playbook there. It basically goes into what soft skills to teach to maximize your ROI without additional sales. Without any additional sales or tactics, if you will. It's just, enhancing the team's understanding of, this practical leadership, communication, conflict resolution, the ability to teach, all these ever important soft skills that especially people in blue collar skilled trades don't usually get taught unless they're, being considered for management or leadership. So a lot of cool tools and stuff there. But yeah, man, you can find anything there. Whatever you need.
There it is, folks. So you go to joshzolin.com and you can check out all the cool tools, and that includes the podcast, whether it's the current one or the ones in the past. Check all that stuff out. It's not a product pitch. It's just an invitation to learn some cool stuff and hear some awesome conversations that might inspire you. Josh Zolin, thanks for being with me on CMMS Radio, brother.
Greg, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you too, man. You too. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.